The case of Sacco and Vanzetti, two men who were convicted of murder during an armed robbery of a shoe factory. Sacco and Vanzetti were members of a feared and despised anarchist group. They both came to the United States from Italy in 1908 and settled in Massachusetts. As anarchists, Sacco and Vanzetti had opposed the war. They had gone to Mexico in 1917 to avoid registering for the draft. When they came back to Massachusetts, they were caught up in the Red Scare. On the afternoon of April 15, 1920, in the town of South Braintree, Massachusetts, Frederick Parmenter and Alessandro Bernardini were carrying two metal boxes filled with almost $16,000 in payroll money. The money was for the employees of the Slater and Morrell shoe factory. On the way to the factory, they were shot by two men who took the money, jumped into a getaway car, a Buick driven by two other men, and rode away. 3 weeks later, an arrest was made. A local sheriff, Michael Stewart, had been tracking anarchists in the area. He was investigating two men, Boda and Coccini, who he thought were involved in the South Braintree robbery. Stewart found that Boda had taken his car to the mechanic. He told the mechanic to call him when anyone came for the car. When Boda and three Gallienist friends, including Sacco and Vanzetti, went to pick the car up, the mechanic called the police. The mechanic tried to stall them, but they all left without the car. Sacco and Vanzetti walked to a nearby trolley stop to return home. The police then arrested them. When they were caught, they were both carrying guns. Questioned the next day by the police and local district attorney, they answered dishonestly because they were afraid of deportation. The prosecutor later charged their lives constituted as consciousness of guilt in the robbery and murder in South Braintree. The trial began in May 1921 and lasted nearly 7 weeks. The prosecution put on the stand 45 eyewitnesses to the crime. Their versions of the events were inconsistent, even contradictory. 5 identified Sacco, but not conclusively. One witness, Louise Pelser, provided the license plate number of the car and gave a detailed description of Sacco, but 2 of his coworkers testified that Pelser had crouched under the bench when the shooting started and had not seen anything. Another witness, Mary Splain, also gave a detailed description of a man in the getaway car, including the length of his hairline and the size of his hands. Her description matched Sacco, but the man she saw was 60 to 80 feet away in a moving car and was in her line of sight for less than 3 seconds. Only one witness said he had seen Vanzetti at the crime scene during the robbery. He told the prosecutors that Vanzetti had been driving the getaway car. The defense offered numerous witnesses to establish alibis. Vanzetti claimed to have been in Plymouth, Massachusetts, peddling fish on the afternoon of the murders. A man corroborated this by testifying that he had bought fish from Vanzetti. A fisherman and a boat builder also remember having spoke with him in Plymouth. Sacco claimed that he had gone to Boston on the day of the murder to get a passport. The clerk at the Italian consulate testified that Sacco had come to his desk that day. 3 other witnesses testified to having lunch with Sacco in Boston on the same day. The main physical evidence connecting Sacco and Vanzetti to the crime were the guns in their possessions when they were arrested. Sacco was found with a loaded .22 caliber Colt with 2 extra cartridges. Vanzetti was found with a .38 Harrington and registered loaded. Vanzetti was also found with 3 shotgun shells in his pocket. The prosecutors claimed that Vanzetti's gun belonged to one of the victims and that Vanzetti had stolen it from him. The prosecutors also offered a ballistics test showing that one of the bullets found in Bernardini's body was fired from Sacco's gun. The bullet with the X underneath it is the bullet recovered from Sacco, and the other 3 are from the crime scene. There was a bit of confusion about the guns, about each side's experts disagreed about whether the bullets matched their guns. There was also a cat found by a victim that supposedly belonged to Sacco. His employer said it belonged to him, but Sacco denied owning it. During the trial, the prosecutors made Sacco try the cap on, and the prosecutors claimed it fit him, but Sacco in his defense claimed that it was a poor fit. On July 14, 1921, the case went to the jury. It returned with a guilty verdict after a few hours of deliberation. Sacco and Vanzetti were found guilty of all charges except for the murders and were sentenced 12 to 15 years in prison, but then they were later found guilty of the murders and were sentenced to the electric chair. 2 years later, an unexpected event occurred. Another inmate in the prison where Sacco was held wrote a note confessing his involvement in the South Braintree crime. The note, signed by Celestino Madrios, read, "I hereby confess to being in the shoe crime factory of South Braintree on April 15, 1920, and that Sacco and Vanzetti were not there." If what Madrios said was true, Sacco and Vanzetti were not guilty, but his description of the crime contradicted well-established facts, and the police did not investigate the confession. On August 23, 1927, Sacco and Vanzetti walked into the death chamber a few minutes after midnight and sat in the electric chair. By 12:30 a.m., they were dead. Nicola, Sacco, and Bartolomeo Vanzetti couldn't have been proven guilty. The jurors' opinions of them were swayed from the beginning of the trial. They were brought into court with manacles and handcuffs and tried to a steel cage. This made them look barbaric and unhuman. Before the trial began, their beliefs had become a big issue. People who were radicals or immigrants were considered bad people and they were not trusted. There was a lot of propaganda that brainwashed the jurors into believing this. The witnesses were also tainted by the propaganda. They disagreed on everything and made up false testimonies. Some witnesses could not identify either man when they were standing 10 feet away, but a woman from a two-story building could describe Sacco in full detail. Some witnesses and their accounts should have been discredited. The matching of the bullets with the gun went both ways. The prosecution said the bullets matched the gun, but the defense said the bullets did not match the gun that belonged to Sacco. There is not a lot of conclusive evidence to prove Sacco and Vanzetti were guilty. It was a lot of circumstantial evidence. It seems like they were guilty until proven innocent rather than innocent until proven guilty. Nicola, Sacco, and Bartolomeo Vanzetti were the victims of a biased trial filled with hatred for their background and beliefs.